Most beginner artists make the same mistakes over and over without improvement. In this video, I'll show you 8 art tips that dramatically improve my own drawings and can help you improve faster too. Hello and welcome to HalosArts. This video is designed for beginner or learning artists, but even if you're experienced, you may find some tips helpful today. I've decided on 8 tips listed here with timestamps in the description below. If you enjoy or find the video helpful, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. It supports my small channel. Thank you. Using references. An artist creates an image using line or strokes, with each new line adding more visual information for the viewer. The goal of drawing is to create a cohesive picture that delivers convincing information for viewers to recognize the subject, form, or intent behind the image. You probably want to draw completely from imagination, and you should. It's the whole joy of art. But if you try to draw an object, say an apple for example, your drawing from imagination may likely be incomplete, to say the least. If you're learning how to draw, don't be afraid to use references. It doesn't diminish your creativity and it's not unskillful to use them. Professional animation studios like MAPPA and Studio Ghibli use references to draw every day. And without them, you'll likely lose accuracy, making your drawings lack crucial information, which will end up looking incomplete or weird. Remember that reference images are to aid your learning process, helping you understand certain structures, shapes, or lighting interactions. If your goal is to improve, I suggest choosing images that give isolated information. For example, if you're learning to color, choose images with a singular light source. Otherwise, the overload of information may overwhelm you. Or, if you're learning anatomy, isolate the body parts to study each muscle group. Essentially, pick references based on your learning needs. And your drawing goal is to understand how to deliver the reference information to your viewer. Focus on observational drawing. Piggybacking off references, observational drawing is the specific techniques or strategies to improve your proportions and accuracy. One concept I recommend is analyzing negative space. And to those unfamiliar, negative space is the empty space around and between the subjects of an image. You may also know it as white space or negative volume. When you're drawing off reference, pay attention to the spacing between objects. For example, in this image, this gap creates a trapezoidal shape. Looking at my sketch, the trapezoid area is too big, meaning I've mistaken the angle of the thumb, and the line should be angled slightly to the left. Further, this half heart-shaped gap is a little small, meaning my hand is also too small. To fix it, I made my hand a little bigger, and now the sketch matches the reference. Identifying negative space made my sketch more accurate. And you may think, what's the point? That was a minor detail, and I'm not drawing just to copy. Well, the purpose is to train you to analyze spatial relations and proportions. You can find negative space in almost any subject, and identifying them will always improve your drawings. Quickly, I will mention measuring. Measuring your proportions and angles with a pencil, your finger, or ruler is the basics of observational drawing. Likewise, when starting a piece, draw holistically and add the details later. You can always adjust parts and proportions as you are working. Finally, you probably hear this one often, but see the subjects in shapes. Use common shapes like circles, triangles, and so forth to understand the form. Mastering these 4 concepts betters your fundamentals for proportions and accuracy. I mainly talked about negative space for this tip, but if you'd like a longer video on observational drawing, let me know. Draw bigger. When I first started drawing, I didn't even know this was an issue, and many beginner artists also fall into this trap of drawing too small. Drawing too small limits both accuracy and detail. Mistakes that may seem invisible at a small scale become obvious when enlarged. You'll also find trouble adding important details or lines that may give significant visual information. Avoid this. Use your whole canvas and draw bigger. If you notice you've only been drawing small, you'll find it awkward to draw bigger. And that's alright. Struggle is part of the learning process. It'll get more natural with time. Also, if you're drawing traditionally on paper and find that you have this habit, this may be the most important tip and the one you want to practice first. And if you're drawing digitally, while it's easy to scale and rotate things, try using the whole canvas for the initial sketch instead of relying on digital tools first. Draw faster. Similar to the last tip, you should draw faster. I understand every artist has their own pace, and it's perfectly fine to take your time, don't get me wrong. But when it comes to practicing or drawing from reference, drawing faster is incredibly helpful. It removes a lot of muddy thinking and unnecessary consideration. Not every line has to be perfect immediately, and that first line will probably be redrawn again later. The purpose of drawing faster is to improve your observational and gestural drawing. If you want to practice this, I recommend using the Line of Action website. Then spend 1 minute on each gesture or figure, drawing the whole picture in just a few concise lines. Draw bigger, draw faster. Clean lines, clean sketches. If your sketches look like this, try reducing the number of lines you use. When you're ready for darker lines, draw cleanly by only using 1 or 2 lines, preferably 1. This line definitively describes the shape and direction of your subject. It removes any questions or confusion on where exactly your contour is pointing to. When I draw with multiple lines, unsure of which one is correct, my lines end up pointing in many different directions. And if you're thinking, this looks fine to me, I can still see exactly what the subject is, your brain is actually tricking you and removing the noise of the extra lines. Do not fall for that and draw cleaner lines. It builds confidence, reduces confusion, and improves accuracy. I'm also not asking for perfection. You can always erase or Ctrl Z if it's inaccurate. I understand drawing fast while keeping your lines clean is difficult, but it's a technique you have to get used to. Your sketches will be more clean and your line art will see significant improvement as well. Lighting defines 3D shapes. When you're ready to move on to value or color, understand that what you are shading is not specific grays or colors, but the surface that's reflected by light. For example, in the square, you can see each plane and its light value. With a more complex figure like this head, you can also see how light divides the planes along the face. These rough shapes create our 3D figure. Don't just shade or color randomly. Understand that each change in value typically reflects a change in plane and how light is diffused. Sometimes that change is a bit more subtle, resulting in soft edges rather than hard edges. The most extreme example of this would be a sphere, where there are no hard edges. Each change in plane is subtle and the value shifts are very natural. In other words, hard edges define structure and shape, whereas soft edges define plane transition. Understanding how light defines these 3D shapes will improve how you improve shading or color, making your drawings less flat and more 3-dimensional. This tip was a bit more conceptual without any real techniques, but that's because I want you to understand how lighting creates shapes. Intro to perspective drawing. Now that you can draw proportionally, it's time to draw the environment. Perspective drawing isn't actually difficult, it's incredibly easy. Perspective is simply a way to create depth. Start by drawing a horizontal line, and then draw a dot. As objects move away from you, their parallel lines converge towards that dot. Every new parallel line also converges to the dot. If a line isn't parallel, it converges to another dot on the same horizontal line. You can draw boxes, circles, arches, and every shape of your desire. You can rotate the subjects, creating 2 new vanishing points on the horizontal line. You can also twist your horizontal line for a more interesting composition. You can even add a dot above or below the horizontal line for a vertical vanishing point. The basic perspectives include a 1-point perspective with 1 dot, a 2-point perspective with 2 dots, and a 3-point perspective with 2 dots on the line and a third above or below the line. However, that's assuming a perfect environment, and in real life we see multi-point perspectives, where there are more than 2 vanishing points on the same horizontal line. If you're drawing traditionally, you can use a ruler or a string hooked to a pin to draw your perspective. If you're drawing digitally, there are typically built-in rulers to help you draw perspective. On Clip Studio Paint, under the perspective ruler, you can create your vanishing points, and then turn on Snap to Special Ruler. With a bit of practice, you can draw more complicated environments and place your figures or subjects within them. The only downside is that it's quite time-consuming, and as a mangaka, there are a lot of environments I have to draw. Of course, there are many shortcuts nowadays, but drawing them every time is good practice. If you'd like a full video on perspectives, do let me know. And lastly, finish your drawings. The final tip of finish your drawings sounds a bit silly, but it's actually really helpful. Many artists, including me, don't finish their drawings and see slow improvement. Whether it's sketching, shading, or rendering, you'll never challenge yourself and learn if you don't give it your best and finish what you started. The result doesn't need to be perfect, or even great, but what matters is how you've improved from your last piece. Whether it's better proportions, cleaner lines, or better rendering, you will almost always see value in finishing your drawings. Those are the 8 tips I have to give for beginner and learning artists, and I hope you found them valuable and helpful. For immediate practice, pick just one of these tips and apply it to your next drawing today. Whether it's using references, drawing bigger, or focusing on cleaner lines, You'll learn more from one finished drawing than 10 unfinished sketches. If you did enjoy, please support my channel by subscribing, leaving a like, and a comment telling me which part was most useful to you. I also stream on Twitch on Halo Fans 2, so consider supporting me there. Thank you for watching.